Apart from the Glenelg tram, which has its own carriageway, Adelaide's trams ceased to run in 1958. Since then, a dedicated band of enthusiasts, with the help of the Salisbury Council, have established a museum at St Kilda, where you can have a ride on one of the many restored electric trams. Two and a half kilometres of track have been established, with a loop at the halfway mark. This allows extra trams to be run. The terminus is near the sea and the outer harbour does not seem that far away. A fun park and a picnic spot has been established, and to allow this to happen, acres of mangroves have been destroyed. Adelaide was the first Australian city to have horse-drawn trams, when a line from the city to Kensington was opened in 1878. These lines quickly spread throughout the suburbs and ran until 1909, when the whole of the network was electrified. The museum's only horse tram had an outing in Victoria Square in 1978, exactly 100 years since it first ran. Don Dunstan held the reins in this instance and almost lost control. This historic photograph shows a lineup of the first electric trams in Grenfell Street in 1909. The museum's prized possession number 1 is leading the way. He also had a run in Victoria Square in 1978. Number 1 saw continuous service until 1952, but today it only runs often enough to keep it in good working order and does not run on days when rain threatens, because water can damage the precious woodwork. Prior to World War II, the tramway system had its own electrical generating power station at Port Adelaide, which supplied 600 volts DC to the trams. The present-day trams also use 600 volts, but get their power from the Electricity Trust. Whether they be young or old, everybody would enjoy a ride on number 1. Number 21 originally ran on the Adelaide system as number 10 from 1909 until 1936. It was then sold to Ballarat, and when that system was closed in 1971, this tram was brought back home, retaining its Ballarat number and colour because of modifications to the original body. The G-type or Bernie car number 303 is unique because, along with 3 others, they were the only trams not built in Adelaide, having been built in California, and ran only on the Port Adelaide system from 1925 until 1935. Number 303 saw service in Geelong and Bendigo from 1936 until 1972. The D and E type trams are similar. They entered service in 1911 and ran until 1958. They were usually seen on lines with sharp curves, such as Kingswood and St Peter's. Number 111 is an E type. Number 192 is a D type. It was built in Adelaide in 1911 for the Melbourne tramway system, but was purchased by the MTT in 1927 and retired in 1958. Number 294 is a typical Melbourne green and cream tram. The museum is interested because it was built in Adelaide around 1912, expressly for the Melbourne and Metropolitan Tramways Board. Therefore, the colour scheme will be retained. Officially called the F-type, but commonly called drop centres, these cars first ran in 1922. They were the most numerous, 84 having been built, and one of them, number 269, was the last tram to run on the city system in November 1958. Number 282 was one of the museum trams, to have an outing in Victoria Square in 1978 to commemorate 100 years of transport by trams. From 1873 to 1929, a steam train ran from Adelaide to Glenelg, following the same route as the trams of today. In 1929, the H-type trams were introduced. They are still running and are well patronised, not only by commuters, but by tourists. At Goodwood, prior to 1929, the steam trains to Glenelg crossed the main rail line at ground level. The bridge was built to accommodate the trams in 1929. Steam trains terminated at this point near the South Terrace in 1914, when passengers transferred to trams. The Bay trams took over in 1929 and have done a splendid job ever since. The Angus Street car barn is due for demolition, with facilities being transferred to Morphettville. Times prior to 1958 would have been one of constant activity in and around this area, but with only 16 trams left, movements are few and far between. Victoria Square has been remodelled several times over the years, but the tram terminus has managed to hold its present position since 1969, and this appears to suit most people who use the trams. Trams served Adelaide well until 1958, when the buses took over. It is to be hoped that the pollution-free trams to the bay will continue to let tourists know what it would have been like to have a ride to this popular seaside resort in 1929.